yet done for the children of the Cayman Islands as a whole. I don't see anything put in place for the elderly that is make sure that it is done. Okay, they got a lot of NAU, they got a lot of rest homes, the Pines, the Coconut Community Center, but we experience every year hurricanes, and we found out last year that maybe earthquakes too. But the one thing that I've noticed is that the shelters on the Bluff, Cayman Brac, the Ashton Ruddy, and the Seamans, they're filled with all the old folks because Cayman Brac has a lot of old folks. And then there's no space for nobody else. Um, I do feel that I would represent not only just Cayman Brac West and Lil Cayman, but the whole entire Cayman Brac and Lil Cayman in a way that no other MLA, or should I say MP, Member of Parliament, that they have now been renamed, has ever done. And that is because I have been here. I feel it. I've been through everything, including the high cost of living. The way that, that they tend to forget, the government tends to forget that there are three islands to take care of, not just one or two.
Thank you
And
very much, Miss Moore. That's the time up for the first question. So we'll move on to the second question. What 2 or 3 national issues would you seek to address if you're elected?
definitely the first one I would address would be the healthcare situation. We must see a little bit further than our nose. And that is Cayman Brac Bluff is God's gift to the Cayman Islands when it comes to natural disasters like hurricanes and earthquakes, and even overflowing of the sea. You know, um, we need to put in place a proper healthcare system, not only just for Grand Cayman, but for the sister islands too. Education is also a key note for me. It needs to be upgraded. And not only that's the reason why nobody as Caymanian really can stay in Lil Cayman, because after 6 years we have a primary school. After 6 years they got to move again, and the infrastructure, the proper zoning of the bluff, because you can't do it on the mainland in Cayman Brac, but you can do it up the bluff, and you can do it now for Lil Cayman before it gets too late, where you can have farming, where you have commercial, where you have residential. So those three are the top priorities for me: health, education, infrastructure, environment, and making sure that the people are taken care of, not just a chosen few, but all, you know. So the national issues that I see that, face us right now is COVID-19, as you know. Not only COVID-19, 19, 20, 21, who only the good Lord knows how much further. So that we would have to, and I envision that this is not going to be the only pandemic that we're going to have to deal with. So we need to set in healthcare system for the sister islands just in case that something more or worse happens in the future, God forbid. But at the same time, I do see that it is a necessity to set in place the hospitals on the bluff in case of a major hurricane or earthquake, God forbid again, happens, because it is possible.
Thank you. The next question we're going to deal with is what you consider to be the top priority to address for the constituency of Cayman Brac West and Little Cayman. What do you think are the top constituency issues?
The high cost of living for the sister islands, because it is very high in Grand. You double it for Cayman Brac and you triple it for Little Cayman. Now, there are some people who would beg to differ with me. They would say, "Oh well, the rent in Cayman Brac is cheaper." I will agree with that, but then everything else is so much more expensive, including the food, the electricity, the water. Not even proper water is for Lil Cayman. We don't have a water authority, and we need one, because Lil Cayman from 1977, when they done the study, they found out say that we hardly get any rain. And I do feel that the constituents, the young folks, their biggest concern right now is the decriminalization of the hemp plants. And I do think that it is time that we stop talking about it and educate our children to be scientists, to understand the pros and cons of all medicinal plants, like the noni, like the periwinkle, not only just the hemp plants, but to continue to send our young people to jail. And then when they come out, they're criminals, they can't get no job. Then the government has to feed them for the rest of their lives, clothe them, and try to educate them. To me, is uncalled for. And not only just the young people are talking about it, but the mothers are crying to me that my child has got to be here home with me all the time because they can't get a job. And then also the healthcare needs to be upgraded, and so does the education system. You know, we're not falling behind that bad, but that we can't catch up. And we can catch up with everything. The infrastructure, as I said before, also needs to be addressed. Proper zoning, proper everything that needs to be in place for the sister islands before it gets too late and be a second Georgetown that you can't even find any place to park. So the constituents have been speaking to me about a whole lot of topics, but those are the main ones that they were really concerned about.
Thank you. Next one is about a project that created a little bit of controversy in Cayman Brac. So the Cayman Brac and Little Cayman Development Control Board recently approved plans to construct a 15,000 square foot helicopter hangar, a 25,000 square foot aircraft parking area, an office building, a concrete apron, and a taxiway close to the Charles Colonel International Airport to station 2 Black Hawk helicopters on site. So what are your views on that project?
I do feel that our whole planning department needs a complete revamp, you know, with people that are not biased and have a conflict of interest. Um, Whereas when I read up on what they're going to do, I don't think it's such a bad idea per se, but I think it's in the wrong location. And it will disturb everybody's way of life. You know, helicopters taking off all hours of the night, all hours the morning, noon, and night. And to forget about our past cultural heritage and just fill it in with no consideration whatsoever, I think was very inconsiderate. That should have been put towards all the people to decide before the piece of land sold, and what they're doing there. Everybody disagreed about, just like everybody disagreed about the new marine parks up at Point of Sand. So I do know years ago when they were doing a project here in Lil Cayman, I fought against, yes, me and my family, the McCoy family here in Lil Cayman. We fought against them closing up a underground cave that had about 500 rock iguanas in it. But unfortunately, when you buy a piece of land in the Cayman Islands because of the improper zoning that they have, they don't listen to you when you tell them, say, no, don't cover that up because don't do this or don't do that. So it just needs to be handled in the right manner. And that helicopter hangar, I still wonder how many Cayman Brackers or Caymanian as a whole will get a job there. How many will be trained as pilots? How many will be able to get a job, even though we don't all agree with it? It's going to come true, whether we like it or not. It's already been approved.
Okay, thank you. So the next question we'll deal with um, deals with what are your ideas to lower the cost of living in Cayman Brac and Little Cayman?
Wow, you need to lower it all in the Cayman Islands, not just here, you know, because we do pay after you pay all of that import duty in Grand Cayman. We don't pay any more import duty, but we got to pay a second freight, and in Little Cayman a third freight. You got to pay port authority charges here in Little Cayman, and we don't have a port authority. We don't even have a proper dock. It's drive on, drive off. God forbid that an accident do happen, but it's just right there waiting to be happen. It's just a matter of when. Now, Cayman Brac does have a proper port, but it's not like Little Cayman where you can just go in and out without hard to foresee right now until the government do a study on the cost of living and where we now got any salary increases, any decent salary increases from the year of our Lord, 1999, since the 21st century roll in. Now, it was given, taken away, and that don't work. And just here late, last 3, 4 years, a little five and a little five. And then the teachers were thought of and got some of them, but not all. But how can you lower it if the cost of import duty is so high? It went from, I think, 12.5 to 30% in the past 4 to 8 years. Um, that's totally wrong on the people. But it can be lowered if they look at different ways and mean and get a complete study of how much they would have to increase the salaries in order for the people to even save a little $50 a month for their old age. Because the pensions are stealing their money, is how I see it. They're not really giving them their full amount. $1,000 a month, you can't survive on that. That's all they want to give you back after you work so hard all your life for your money that they're holding on for. If it go up and down, then you lose. That's wrong. Totally wrong. You know? And I'm not saying all pensions, I'm just saying some.
Well, thank you. We've got through the first 5 questions. At this time, we're going to take a short commercial break. Please stay tuned. We'll take this break and then we'll come back with the next round of questions. Please stay tuned.
For any 5-packs.
The meat is always fresh and never previously frozen. It's the perfect way to stock up for the week. That's dinner sorted.
Look out for Pick 5 in the meat department at all Foster's supermarket locations.
Foster's, better value because we care.
You hear people talk about the economy all the time. But what is the economy exactly? The economy is the flow of money between the people, the companies, and the government in the Cayman Islands. Why is it important to understand the economy? Well, just like the engine of a car, the better we understand the economy, the better we can make it run, and the more prosperous we can become as a community. The first important thing to understand about the economy is that the private sector is the main source of all wealth. Think about it. Most people work for companies in the private sector, both big companies and small businesses. But even if you work for the government, your salary comes from the fees and duties paid to the government by private sector companies and their employees. That's why we call the private sector the prosperity engine that powers our economy and drives the country forward. When business is booming, companies have more money to spend on salaries, bonuses, and promotions. Employees with more money buy more products and services from other businesses. All those people and businesses spending money generates revenue for the government, which pays for important services like education, roads, emergency services, and care for the elderly. So when the private sector is doing well, everyone does well. But when the private sector isn't doing well, like during a recession, the money dries up and everyone suffers. So when you hear people ask, how do we make our country more prosperous? The answer is pretty simple. Grow the economy. After all, you can't get more money from a system that isn't making more money. That's not economics. That's just common sense. In this video series, we're going to take a closer look at our economy to see how we can fuel our prosperity engine and how to make sure everyone benefits. For now, thanks for watching, and remember to share this video with your family and friends so they can learn more about our economic prosperity engine.
Welcome back to the Chamber of Commerce Candidates Forum for Cayman Brac West and Little Cayman. We're now entering the second round of questions. And for the first question, we're going to talk a little bit about employment. So what is your view about the Department of Work and the current priority of employing Caymanians? Would you propose any changes to the current system? And if yes, what would you recommend?
At present, right now, there are too many people here on work permits. That's my viewpoint, my opinion. Now, I get a lot of criticism saying, who am I to criticize when I hire foreigners? I said, yes, I do, because the Caymanians cannot come because after 6 years, they got to move again. Once you put in the infrastructure, then a lot of Caymanians will move to Little Cayman and Cayman Brac. But in the meantime, work has to be done. Right now, I think after this COVID kind of lift a little bit better and the borders open up, that we should give our Caymanians or whoever are here, including the work permit holders that are here, because I consider a person who lives and work here in the Cayman Islands or Caymanian, whether they got a piece of paper or not, because they're here living, they're here working. So, um, work and NWDA and immigration, it all needs to be a complete revamp and a complete looking over to make sure that the Caymanians are given first priority and they are treated as the first citizen in their own country and not a second class citizen. Like, I'm totally shocked at the airport in Grand that you don't see one Caymanian face there. And it used to be loaded with Caymanian smiles. And Cayman Brac is getting to be the same way. And not that you don't have the Caymanians there, but if they're not overqualified, they're underqualified. So they need to take a direct look and a real good sit down and make sure that everything that they have mandated is regulated and give Caymanians first priority. They've been talking about it. Yes, it's in the law, but is it really being done? I don't think so. So that's what really needs to be done is that Caymanians be given top priority.
Thank you. The next question is, which ministry or position in the new government would best suit your skills and why?
District administration or education. District administration, because I used to work at Public Works in Cayman Brac and I done all the budgeting from 1977 till when they moved me to Grand Cayman 1981. The reason why they moved me because they were so impressed of how I had done the work after Hurricane Allen, August the 6th, 1980. And they wanted me down there to fix their books up so because they knew computers were coming. So I set up all of their public works books. I set up all their treasure. I was secretary to the chief accountant, Mr. Louis Moncrief. Um, and I set up all of GIS before it was GIS, all of the books so that they could easily take it and put it on computers. And now that I am here, I know what district administration needed from the beginning. And that was when they budget for something to use all the money and don't send it back to Grand Cayman. Because the old folks used to say, make Grand Caymanians see that we don't need them. No, we need the money even if we don't need them. You know, that they could say that when all of the rich folks lived in Cayman Brac. So I do feel that district administration, I could do an excellent job with revitalizing that. And also education, because I've been teaching for a long time. And I do know a lot of history of the Cayman Islands, of which the children needs to be fully aware of. And the education department does need upgrading, even though it is so far so good now that they changed from the American way of teaching in the books to back to the UK. Because when I was going to school, it was the UK. And so it was a little confusing when you get computers and everything is American spelling, you know? So I do think that I would do a better job of district administration and revitalizing it and putting smiles back on the people of Cayman Brac and Lil Cayman by budgeting the right and correct man and using all the money.
Oh, thank you. Now, the next topic is revitalization, and talking about Cayman Brac West and Little Cayman. You know, what are your ideas about revitalizing the economy of Cayman Brac and Little Cayman?
Wow, that's a big, long job to do since Hurricane Island, August the 6th, when the seas went straight to the bluff and totally devastated the whole economy. It was really a mess. Paloma was just a drop in the bucket. But to revitalize it is a long, tedious job. And it does take not only my ideas, but it takes the ideas of all the people of what they would like to see done. You know, like tourist attractions. You know, as I said, I'm not only here for Cayman Brac, West and Little Cayman. I'm also for the entire Cayman Brac. So my grandfather, God rest his heavenly soul, he was a pastor, and he said to me in 1996 when I first started, he said, Maxie, he says, we need to put a safeguard out there so that people can view Lil Kim and Brack and buy the Johnny cake without falling off the edge of the bluff. Charge $1. That was 1996. For every tourist that want to view it, put 3 people there to work. It would be give 3 people jobs. You know, um, charge them to go and view it. Go to nice parking. That is a good example. What we need to do is zone off that bluff properly first and revitalizing it with agriculture, revitalizing it with self-sustainable fruits, vegetables like Margarito Farm or Farmer for many years. And Lil Cayman has a bigger problem because the iguanas eat everything, and that's no life. That's the God Almighty truth. They do eat everything that you try to plant. But I'm still trying my farming. You know, you have a lot of historical sites that needs to be preserved, and where they're going to put that new hangar is one of those that they should have preserved. There are a lot of them on Lil Cayman and Cayman Brac, and who knows, we might have another crystal cave here that we don't know nothing about. Up at Long Beach in Cayman Brac could be another tourist attraction. You know, there's so many places that can be revitalized to attract tourism and staycationers.
Thank you. The next topic is transportation, and we'll take this for all of the Cayman Islands. So significant development projects are underway or have been approved around Grand Cayman. What additional changes to roads or public transport systems would you like to see above the current road improvements already announced? And also, do you support placing a limit or restriction on vehicles imported?
I do. When I left Grand Cayman and way back in November 1995, it was because of the traffic woes. I always got to work late because no matter how early you left, it was just not sufficient roads. But then they put more roads, but then they allowed more vehicles in. So we should restrict the amount of vehicles that are allowed to be brought in. You know, um, I would like to build new roads in the sister islands. For example, not new roads, but upgrade the roads, including a plan to wider and higher roads for the use of vehicles on a carriageway and the side for joggers, pedestrians, and bicycles. This is what something it is necessarily needed in the sister islands. This will be accompanied with new signs, buffers, and road safety measures to keep our citizens and visitors safe while they travel. Now, in Grand Cayman, there is a lot of different vehicles and pedestrians crossings and everything. We don't have sufficient in the sister islands, and we do need them. Um, you know, to upgrade also would mean widening of roads. On the Bluff Cayman Brac, it doesn't have it. If you get a flat tire on the bluff, you easily run off and get an accident. God knows how bad the accident could be because it doesn't have any any way for you to pull off on top of the bluff, except 1 or 2 places. Is not in every place. And you know, you need to put in place the proper widening of the road so that if you get a flat tire, you can easily stop and don't run off the road immediately to get in a massive accident. So there are a lot of ways, but again, it needs to be revamped and relooked after.
Okay, thank you. So we'll deal with a subject that you're passionate about, I believe. It's education. Chamber of Commerce members have identified finding and retaining local talent as one of the greatest challenges facing the business community. Many high school graduates entering the workforce lack basic literacy and numeracy skills. Apart from specialized in vocational and technical training, how do you plan to ensure that all of Cayman's graduates are prepared to enter the workforce and progress in their chosen careers?
I would like to see them introduced into the schools. Um, a standard of education where it teaches the children how to budget, teach them how to even open a bank account, teach them not only how to read and write or your ABCs and one, two, threes, but how to actually survive after they graduate from high school. Because most of them are not showed that. And if they don't have good parents, for example, good parenting that knows about it, then they're stuck. So I would like to see that educational wise, all of the children are not just um, upgraded to the next class unless they actually pass certain exams. And if they don't pass them, they got to stay in the same class they were in. When I was going to school, that's how it was. If you were not smart enough to move on, because not every child is at the same level, everybody is different. Somehow special needs, somehow autistic problems. We should have different schools for all these different kind of children because not everybody is at the same level. So in order to help them, we need to introduce a new system. And the system would be that not everybody is treated at the same level. So train more teachers, train the ones that are autistic, they be taught in the right manner how to operate. The ones that are special needs, the same way. Now, those that are normal, they need to be showed, including all of the special needs and autistic children, they need to be showed also how to budget and how to take care of themselves after high school. You know, um, we need to expand our educational system. We need to upgrade it. And it is a good system. It just needs to be regulated and mandated in the right way.
Well, thank you very much. We've gone through 10 questions now. We're going to take another short break. And when we return, we'll begin the next round of questioning. Please stay tuned.
March in Cayman is hot, but at Foster's, it's frozen.
Frozen Food Month is back, and we're giving away 4 $250 Foster's cards. To win, just purchase any 3 products from the frozen department from now until March 27th. It's that easy.
You could grab a frozen pizza for dinner, frozen berries for a morning smoothie, and frozen plant-based sausages for something different.
Exactly. Just don't forget to enter online at fosters.ky/frozen food month. Foster's. Better because we care.
Here in the Cayman Islands, the private sector is the prosperity engine that drives the country forward. Just like a real engine. The better we understand how it works, the better we can make it run, and the better off we'll be. To help illustrate how our economy works, let's take a step back in time to when there were only a few thousand people living in Cayman. In those days, most people survived by fishing or farming for food. It was a simple, wholesome life, but it was a lot of hard work. Most people bought what they needed from their neighbors. As people bought and sold things, their individual wealth went up or down, but the overall wealth of the country stayed the same. In a simple economy like this, the only way one person could increase their wealth was by reducing someone else's. In order to increase the overall wealth of the country, one of our Caymanian ancestors would have to sell something, a product or service, to someone somewhere else, and bring that money back home. In other words, we would have to export something. In those days, our biggest export was labor. Men worked overseas or on the seas and brought the money home, thereby increasing the total wealth of the country. Although the economy is much bigger and more complex today, these same principles still apply. Every time a company in Cayman sells a product or service to a customer overseas, the overall wealth of the country increases. Once it's here, it flows around the local economy between the government, the people, and the companies and becomes a part of our society's wealth. The 2 biggest sources of income for our economy today are financial services and tourism, often called the pillars of our economy. Tourists come here and spend their money. So all of the tourism companies like hotels, restaurants, buses, Stingray City Tours that make sure our visitors have a great time are helping to increase the wealth of our country. Just like tourists, clients of financial services firms come here and spend money too. So all of our financial service companies like insurance companies, fund administrators, lawyers, and accountants that facilitate investment transactions for people and companies around the world bring money into the economy and increase the overall wealth. The point is, if we want to increase the prosperity of our country, the best way to do that, in fact, the only way to do that, is to grow the private sector. In particular, the companies at the front lines that bring the wealth here from overseas in the first place. In the next video, we'll talk a little about how money moves around the economy. For now, thanks for watching, and remember to share this video with your family and friends so they can learn more about our economic prosperity engine. In the last episode, we learned about the important role of companies here in Cayman that do business with overseas customers and generate new wealth for the Cayman Islands economy. But what about all the other companies in the Cayman Islands? How do they fit into our prosperity engine? Every business in the Cayman Islands falls into one of three groups, or tiers. Each tier plays a critical role in our economy. The first tier is made up of all the companies that do business with overseas customers and bring money into our economy. Companies in this tier are like the gas tank of our economic prosperity engine. The more we have in the tank, the farther we can go. Although most well-known companies in this tier are in financial services like Butterfield Bank or tourism like the Ritz-Carlton, there are many other well-known Tier 1 companies doing business with overseas customers, like Uniregistry, Health City, and all of the companies in Cayman Enterprise City. The second tier of the economy is all the companies that do business with other local companies, like IT and marketing consultants, or companies that sell supplies to bars and restaurants. These companies are also very important because without them, the companies they supply would need to buy their goods and services from overseas. So while companies in Tier 1 bring money into our economy, companies in Tier 2 help keep it here. The third tier is made up of all the companies that provide services to people that live and work in the Cayman Islands. Companies in this tier include supermarkets, dry cleaners, mechanics, gyms, doctors, dentists, architects, house builders, florists, and gardeners. These companies are important sources of employment and business opportunities for our people. And they play a really important role because without them, Cayman wouldn't be a very nice place to live. So to recap, Tier 1 companies do business with customers overseas. Tier 2 companies do business with other companies in Cayman. And Tier 3 companies do business with those who live here. Every company and self-employed contractor in the Cayman Islands falls into one of these three tiers, and they all play an important role in making our nation prosperous, helping bring money into our country, improve our economy, and creating jobs. And without them, the Cayman Islands wouldn't be the great country that it is. Thanks for watching, and remember to share this on social media so we can all help fuel the economic prosperity engine.
Welcome back to the Chamber of Commerce Candidates Forum for Cayman Brac West and Little Cayman. Gone through the first 10 questions. Now we begin the next round of questions. And the next one deals with the stay-over tourism reopening. So what is your position on reopening the borders to stay-over visitors?
Definitely, Will, we got to do something. Because we cannot continue to sustain paying a stipends of $1,500 a month to the workers who don't have any work that are here stuck in the tourism sector. But depending on the other countries vaccinating their population and the effectiveness of the branded vaccine, which will be approved by the Center of Disease Control and WHO, which is World Health Organization. The answer also depends on the virus mutation, and if vaccinated person will be immune, then to the Cayman Islands could open its border once again to airline travel and to cruise ship travel. We have seen other islands desperate to reopen, and it's been a repeated disaster. So I wouldn't rush to really reopen. If we did open, once 80% of our population here is vaccinated on all three islands, we would allow, but we also got to think about the children that are not vaccinated that might be coming in. So we have to put in place a stipulation that the children and parents would have to be still be quarantined for that 10 to 14 days. But then we should allow, once get the machine that can prove within an hour or two that they are COVID free and everything is okay. Once they're vaccinated and got the proof of it from what we recognize, then, you know, it can work. It is doable. It is doable to open, I'd say by 1st of June. Um, but at the same time, it's a long way to go before we can actually say that all of them, because they don't have nothing to vaccinate children against it. So it's a long journey ahead of us. And as I said, I don't think that this is going to be the only pandemic that we're going to have to face. So we have to reopen and soon.
Well, thank you. Next question deals with the balance between development and environment. So, do you believe that we can actually strike a balance between development and the environment? And if yes, how would you attempt to achieve this balance if elected?
I do think we can strike a balance between them because, sorry, because the environment, we got to protect the flora and fauna. I've said so from 1996, not only on the land, but in the sea and in the air. Because if we don't protect them, then what are we going to have to attract any tourism here? We have to protect them. And we have already done a lot of studies on everything. We just have not really implemented them in the right manner. So once we go back to the drawing board, as you would say, and we pick back up everything that was given to us from 1977, when we paid all of that pile of money to do a study on the environment and its impact in the Cayman Islands, and all of this argument about the Iron Shore and everything, planning would have had that in front of them. But as usual, normally they get a study and they put it in file 13, I call it. That's the garbage pan. And then they go back and pay somebody else to do another study. And that same person will tell them the same thing over and over again. So, yes, it is doable and it must be done because we got to protect the environment for our future generations and for everything that we believe in, cultural heritage, you know, prosperity is comes at a cost, unfortunately, on the environment. But then at the same time, we don't need to approve skyrocket hotels on the Iron Shore. The beach is mine. I can bathe there anytime, despite what they say. I got bathe there anyway. So everybody's used to jumping off the Iron Shore. Everybody's used to fishing from the Iron Shore. So now you can't even find a place to even walk on the Iron Shore, much less the beach. So we got to really, really go back to the drawing board and revamp everything that was given to us way back when and make sure that it is regulated and done.
Next question is again about the environment generally. So, what are your views about attracting more investment and development in Little Cayman and Cayman Brac? So, would you support a campaign to increase the population of the sister islands?
Well, I would not support a campaign to increase the population, but I would say that I really want to attract more of the correct people, and the people who are going to love the island the way that we love it. And that can go for the staycationers that they're doing right now. Like I heard a lot of people are investing in Cayman Brac's Bluff now and on beach. And I know there's a lot of investment going on here in Lil Cayman, a lot of subdivisions going on. Now, what we have right now in Lil Cayman is just what we call um you couldn't call them staycationers. We call them, they come sometime 3 months out of the year. Some come for six, depending on how cold it is in their country. But sorry, investment is always a part of development. And we do need a little bit more than what we have here in order to for the young people to get jobs in order. But it can be controlled by the planning department. But it again, it must be by people who are not biased, self-serving, or having a conflict of interest. And a lot of that is going on in the sister islands that kisses go by favor. But it has to stop. So, yes, Cayman Brac could do with a little bit more investment and development, but it must be controlled. So does Lil Cayman. And but I really wouldn't support getting a whole pile of people in Lil Cayman. That was one of the main reasons why I moved back home 27 years ago. Because if I want that, I can jump on a plane and go to Grand Cayman. And just the road rage alone makes me want to come back after 2 nights. One night, actually. But yes, we do need a little bit more in order for the children to survive in their own island country. We do need a little bit more investment and a little bit more development, but not that much more. So it can be controlled and it is doable.
So next question deals with health insurance. So health insurance premiums continue to increase annually for many businesses and especially for persons who reach retirement age. So what improvements, if any, would you propose to make the health insurance more affordable for businesses and retirees?
That's on my manifesto because it is a serious problem. After you work all your life to to make the rich man richer, you would say, then they leave you out in the loop. Oh, they only give you back $1,000 a month out of your pension. You can't survive on that. And then they tell you out of that $1,000, then you got to pay $500 for you and your husband or you and your family to survive. And it needs to be addressed, and it needs to be addressed immediately with the new government because it should be at a lower premium if you're a retiree because you're now a senior citizen. Internationally, no matter where you go, senior citizens are given special discounts on tickets, special discounts on transport, special discounts with everything. And every year the insurance company should not be going up by 10, 15% because it is totally wrong for the people. And not only just the employer, but the employees cannot afford it. And so then you end up working for just to pay insurance. So how can you balance it? You must balance it by having the government step in and take a complete overhaul of what is going on because the premiums are skyrocket high and they only reimburse you no matter which insurance it is 100 CI dollars a year. And just as you open the door of the doctor's office, that's $250. You haven't even said hello to him yet. You haven't even met him yet. So it has to change. And I have that on my manifesto for the sister islands and for the Cayman Islands as a whole. So it has to be something that can be set in place to protect not only the senior citizen, but everybody in general.
And the last question in this round of 5 questions is affordable housing. So the availability of affordable housing is a major issue in Grand Cayman. Is the situation in the Brac and Little Cayman similar? And what would you recommend to address this important national issue?
It's a big problem. It is a huge, big problem because the land costs have gone skyrocket high, went straight through the roof and blew it off. So how can you afford a piece of land that a piece of land costs over $100,000? And I'm not talking about just beach property or inshore property. I'm talking about bluff property. I'm talking about anywhere you're going to Cayman Islands, just about. So if your salary is only $2,500 a month, for example, how can you afford to pay that back the bank when the bank wants to pay 200 out of that? And they're discriminating against age, and that's wrong. Affordable housing, not only through government, but should be allowed through the private sector too. And government is doing a good job so far, but it is needed across all 3 islands, not just Grand Cayman and Cayman Brac. Here in Little Cayman, we do have this year about 37 registered voters, was the last count I had. That's not the updated one on the 1st of April. So we need to address it, and we need to address it before it gets too way out of hand that you can't address it at all. So if I was win, I am chosen to represent the people of the islands, I would make sure that no more affordable housing be put on the mainland in Cayman Brac. They all be put on the bluff. And here in Little Cayman, they be put on the highest point of this island because we do have three what they call hills that we can put them that in case of a major disaster, God forbid, that the people will have somewhere to go, you know, that they can because the hurricane shelter is up on a small bluff, and that is all land is owned by government. So we need to invest into our people a lot more and bring the cost of because they're working on commission. That's the reason why the land is so high.
Well,
Got to
thank you
change.
again. We've finished 15 questions, and we're going to take another short commercial break. And then when we come back, we'll have the final 5 questions for this evening's forum. Please stay with us.
At Bay Market Cafe, we know life can get in the way of good food, so we're here to offer a hand. Online ordering is back, and this time, it's better than ever. If you overslept and are running out of time, order online and pick it up. Raining? Get it delivered. On your way to go there or do that, order and pick it up. Sun scorching? Meeting? Get it delivered. That way, you can spend more time doing this or that with him, her, they, and them. So whether you need your morning coffee, you're craving a red velvet donut, ramen, a lamb burger, or a falafel pita, order the food you love and skip the line. Pick it up or have it delivered. That's Bay Market Online.
When companies do well, everyone does well. Not just the business owners, but the employees, other businesses, the government, and even the customers. Seriously. To learn how, let's look at how money flows through a company. When a company sells its goods and services, they receive money, which is called revenue. That money is then split up and used in a number of different ways. Some of the money goes to employees. To keep it simple, we'll call this salaries. Some of the money goes to pay for products and services the company needs to keep running. Those expenses are called overheads. Some of the revenue goes to the government in duties and fees. And finally, any money left over goes to the owners of the business as profit. So no matter what products or services a company provides, it's like a machine that takes in money as revenue and spits money out as salaries, overheads, government fees, and profits. It's really that simple. Every dollar that a company takes in gets turned into one of those 4 things. Okay, so how does it benefit everyone when companies do well? Let's take a closer look. First, with salaries. Salaries are important for the economy because most people get most of their income from their employment. Next, government fees. In the Cayman Islands, the vast majority of the government's revenue comes from duties and fees paid by businesses. That money goes to pay for important government services like education, emergency services, healthcare, and infrastructure. Then we have overheads. Quite simply, one company's overhead is just another company's revenue. When a hotel needs supplies, they buy them from local suppliers. Those suppliers turn that revenue into salaries, overheads, duties and fees, and if they're lucky, profit. Some people think that business owners make too much money, but the truth is, the average company only makes 7.5 cents in profit for every dollar in sales. And that's assuming they make a profit at all. The other 92.5 cents goes to pay for salaries for staff, overheads that become revenue of other companies, and duties and fees that pay for the government services we need. In order to become successful, most business owners have to work extremely hard and take a lot of risks. If it wasn't for the ability to make a profit, the owner wouldn't have started the business in the first place. And if nobody started any businesses, there would be no jobs for employees, which means no salaries, no overheads to support other businesses, and no money from government fees to pay for our government services. So yeah, when companies do well, everyone does well. In the next video, we'll take a closer look at why countries need economic growth. For now, thanks for watching. And remember to share this video with your family and friends so they can learn more about our economic prosperity engine. Most people want the same basic things in life. They want to be safe, healthy, happy. They want a good job. In a word, people want prosperity. So how can we create more prosperity for Caymanians? Another way to say prosperity is standard of living. There are 3 basic ways to improve this.
Uh,
Welcome back to the Chamber of Commerce Candidates Forum for Cayman Brac West and Little Cayman. Now we're entering into the final round of questions. And for this final round, we're going to begin with the subject of new industries for Cayman Brac and Little Cayman. So what new industries would you seek to encourage to set up in Cayman Brac and Little Cayman if you were elected?
well, we all know that Grand Cayman survives on a lot of offshore banking, insurance companies, and reinsurance companies. Like I was an insurance broker for 14 years, so I know a lot about that. You know, I would hold meetings with local offices and offshore companies to persuade them to relocate on the bluff Cayman Brac and or the higher points here in Little Cayman. Bearing in mind, as I said, we do have 6 months out of the year hurricane season. So when I remember when Ivan hit Grand Cayman, the offshore companies and the offshore banking ran away to where was the hit, ABC Islands and Nassau and Bermuda in order to operate. If they put something on the bluff, office for every one of them, they would be able to just move there. So it'd be easier for them. But focusing on portraying less traffic, low cost of living, peaceful and safe environment, a solid infrastructure that is there now, and a multiple daily flights into the Cayman Islands by our national airline, Cayman Airways. Relocating of offshore companies on our territory must be accompanied by new immigration policies that would make sure that the Caymanians are trained and get the proper input for how to operate these offshore reinsurances, banking, and insurance companies. And to, to, to do this, we need to set in place where the proper zoning is would be on the bluff to locate all of these different buildings. And every one of them, all they need to do is put a cement roof. And in a hurricane, they can operate in the right and proper manner. There's no reason why they can't be relocated. I said that from the year of our Lord 2021 years ago. And it's about time that it be set in place that, you invite them to relocate because of all of these natural disasters that can happen.
Thank you. The next question actually weaves right into the financial services industry. And given that the financial services is critical to our island's economy, if elected, how would you respond to the FATF gray listing and the European Union's intention to blacklist us, even though we have met most of their requirements?
Well, we all know that the outer world spins around on time. We cannot be late with putting in any information whatsoever. We should be proactive with that. We should have those all in before they ask us to have them in. And we should be transparent. And we should be in a manner that would be well pleasing to everybody. Because, and to say the Caymanian way, I soon come, don't work in the outer world. You know that well, I know that. The whole wide world know that. So we were not blacklisted before. We were blacklisted this last time because it took us 3 days or 3.5 days, something like that, I was told, to present what we had to present. Yes, we have to restructure our way of thinking and don't say, I soon come, I soon get it for you. No, we need to have everything in order, be transparent about it, and they will never have to blacklist us ever again. The FATF or none of those other corporate offices that run the whole wide world. So in order for Cayman to keep up and to get back up from whatever they are grade they are now in the financial industry, we have to make sure that we're proactive with everything and get it in on time. In fact, before time, that they can't say, "Well, we're still here waiting on the Cayman Islands to present X, Y, and D from their financial section of the government or the private sector as a whole." So that's the only how that we're gonna be able to keep up with what is expected of us and what we know that we must do. So get it all together, all in time, present it before time, and if there's any problems that need to be changed, we can get them changed in time.
Thank you. Next subject is the national lottery. And the question is, the introduction of a national lottery has been discussed for many years as a way of funding education and infrastructure. What's your view on introducing a national lottery, and would you introduce it if you were elected?
Well, let's put it this way: is never ever going to leave the Cayman Islands, not selling numbers. So I do think that a lot of people feel that if they lose selling the numbers on the cover, that it would be the biggest disaster. They would never be able to survive, you know. But I do think that me personally, I do think that that will and can even be better for the Cayman Islands. Not a casino. In I'm not really approved of any casino. I am talking about the numbers now, which is a lottery. The people who are selling now wouldn't have to hide. They would be paid by government then to sell the numbers to those people who can't get there to wherever they set it up. And it would not be anybody shooting nobody or stabbing up nobody because they didn't pay, or I told you to play this number for me and you didn't play it because you whatever, whatever. There's a lot of crime going on because of undercover lottery. And we ain't going to stop that numbers playing in the Cayman Islands. It's been here from the 1970s and it'll be here until God come, I believe, because they call it gambling. But then even the churches gamble if you look at it in that manner. They have a car out there, the schools go there and they put a car out there, buy a ticket for this, buy a ticket for that. So I do think that it would help with the cost of living, would bring it down. I do think it would help with our healthcare or education. It would help in a lot of way. And the people who are selling it now would be paid in the right manner from government and for selling it to people who cannot make it to whichever place that you can buy it. Once as long as you set it up in a right and proper manner, it should be run. It would be run. And I would be, you know, I'd say yeah.
The next one deals with youth. Next question. What do you regard as the top two issues facing our youth today, and how do you intend to address these concerns if elected?
I said a little bit earlier to you before we were on the show that the young people biggest concern right now is the decriminalization of the hemp plant and its medicinal purposes. And also for the mothers, I think they're the biggest problem with the youth right now is those that have the special needs, those that have the autistic problems, and also why we don't have a trade school is the questions have been asked. Well, we need a trade school. That is definitely something that we need to do. And we should do a boarding school up on top of the bluff that the children in Grand Cayman would learn all three of their islands. They're boarded out there and being well taken care of at a teenage age. I also feel that the parents and the youth would like to see a middle school reinstated back because of all the infrastructure for bullying and everything else that goes on between I think that the middle school should go back to being year 7, 8, and 9, and the high school year 10, 11, and 12. And that way you would cut out some of the bullying. But the biggest concern of the young people right now, as I said, is that decriminalization, that you don't throw them in jail for doing things that they ain't supposed to do. And liquor is the same way, you know. Uh, I do think that the liquor licensing should put up for children to don't drink like the international world to 21, not 18, because 18 is too young for you to understand how to control it. It controls you. And whereas I'm in not agreement with everybody walking around being weed heads, as the old folks would say, I am in agreement for scientists being made out of our young folks and them learning the pros and cons of medicinal plants, because all plants are medicinal just about in every way. And the young people are concerned about that mainly.
And the final question for this evening deals with the elderly. And what would you recommend or support additional programs to assist the elderly population in Cayman Brac, Little Cayman, and the Cayman Islands in general? And if yes, can you please elaborate on the programs or assistance you'd provide?
Yes, I do think that more programs are needed. In Cayman Brac, I know, for example, those folks that are so down and out and trying to do things to themselves that they shouldn't even be thinking about doing. They're not allowed to take their own medication. So they got to go every day to the faith hospital. We don't have no pharmacies like how Grand Cayman has. And Grand Cayman has a lot of old people just like we do, and a lot of people who need help, not only just physically, but mentally. So yes, there are a lot of programs could be set in place to help these kind of people, you know, that they don't have to worry about how am I going to get my medication again. You know, the taxis are limited on the BRAC. You have a lot of them in Grand, but they're limited on the BRAC, and there are no taxis in Lil Cayman. And the older folks here, most of them still drive. So they're up in their 80s and trucking 90 years old, and they still drive because there's not much traffic. But in Cayman Brac too. But then there are a lot of people who never drove in their life. So how are they going to get their medication? How are they going to get their therapy that they need? How are they going to do all of this? So there's a lot of programs that can be set in place to help the older folks in every way that we possibly can. Remember that it was because of them where we are today, you know, or the old seamen them that they just can't get out of bed, some of them anymore. Some of them can still get out of bed, but they just can't take care of themselves anymore. They took care of us. We should take care of them in every manner that we possibly can. And that not only goes for the older folks, that goes for those who that are mentally disabled. We need a place for the mental in the Sister Islands on the bluff too. I say on the bluff for everything because it protects us from all kind of natural disasters. So yes, I agree. We
Well,
do
thank
need.
you. Thank you for responding to the 20 questions. We're going to take a short commercial break. And when we return, we'll have closing remarks from our candidate, Miss Maxine McCoy Moore. Please stay tuned. Back to the Chamber of Commerce Candidates Forum for Cayman Brac West and Little Cayman. It's now time for Maxine McCoy Moore to provide us with her closing comments for this evening. Over to you, Maxine.
Thank you, Will. And thank you, everybody, for listening. Remember, MAM, that's my initial, Maxine Avon McCoy Moore, MAMM, will be Cayman Brac and Lil Cayman Best MP. Once you all come out and put 1X by my name, please, no more than 1X. Last time I got 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 X's. Today we are launching together on a journey that has its eyes clearly settled on the future. The opportunity to serve you is definitely thrilling. I recognize my role as a member of parliament to be a very powerful tool for positive transformation amidst this historical moment that we are currently living in. Still, as I said before, I'll say again, I can't run this race alone. I will enhance this speech to say, no man is an island and no woman stands alone. I could go on and on with improvements that are needed, but I'm just taking it one step at a time. I need your input, not only just my input. My next meeting will be on the 26th of March at 7 o'clock at the Weston Community Park. Please come out and enjoy a fun-full evening between 7 and 9 and maybe a little bit later. I invite you to share your thoughts and ideas with me to cherish our beautiful Cayman Islands and especially Cayman Brac and Little Cayman. Nourish me with your forthcoming plans that you envision. This way I can truly state that you have elected me, and before committing to this position of being your true representative in the Cayman Islands House of Parliament, your visions will and can be added to my list of must-dos. Please don't forget to introduce me to your neighbors and your friends. Those 98 Cayman Brackers who voted for me in 2017, invite 4 or 5 more people to. And that way, I will get in to help you, not only for today, but for future generations to come. One day, we will pass on the baton to the next generation, and it is our duty to run harder and go further than the person who handed the baton to us. I wish to leave this world with a couple of islands that are better than they were when I was a little girl growing up between Cayman Brac and Little Cayman. Let's work together to accomplish this mission. Thank you so much. Let's work together to accomplish this mission. I will keep praying to our God, our Creator, that you all will understand that Mom will be Cayman Brac and Little Cayman best MP. Let us all stay safe and healthy as the Cayman Islands are right now. Let us all work and live and keep
KY. So please join us on Monday evening as we welcome Captain Eugene Ebanks and Catherine Ebanks Wilkes from the constituency of West Bay Central. Thank you for tuning in, and I hope you will join us tomorrow and Monday evening at the same time. Good night and have a good weekend.